All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 5:01. We want to make sure we can get through all of our content today, and also, excuse me, that we have time for our breakout sessions by program. And so I would like to start and ask any faculty and staff in the meeting just to unmute, introduce yourselves before we launch into this material.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Stevens. I'm faculty in the Marriage and Family Therapy program, and I look forward to meeting those applicants for our program after the department presentation is finished.
Hey, I'm Joni Aguayo. I'm in the Early Childhood Education program, and I also look forward to speaking with those of you who are interested in the little guys and little girls. And I'm also co-graduate coordinator with Dr. Shira Minton.
Do we have anybody else? I know some folks will be joining us momentarily. Dr. Cordova, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Teresa. I'm the department coordinator for the Ed Psych and Counseling department. So if you call our number or if you email directly to me or epcadmin@csun.edu, I will be the person who responds along with my assistant, who is also here, Madison Baker.
Hi everyone, I'm Madison. I'm the administrative support assistant, and like Teresa said, I work alongside her. If you have any questions regarding the application process or registering for classes, I'm the person you come to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So everyone, I'm Shira Minton. I am faculty in the department and I coordinate our counseling program. And I'm also co-graduate coordinator with Dr. Lucila Aguayo. And so we are glad that you are here with us today. We will be reviewing our application process. We'll be reviewing the different programs that we offer in the program. And then of course you will have time to connect with faculty for our respective programs in the department. So let's get started. There was a question in the chat that asked if these slides would be available. We will be posting this recorded session to our Department Prospective Student webpage after this meeting. So you can look for that information if you need a refresher or review, I would say at the start of next week. Okay. So these are the programs that we offer. We have a Master of Science in Counseling, which includes school counseling and college counseling student services. We also have a career counseling program. However, that program is not currently admitting. We have a Master of Science in Marriage and Family Therapy and a Master of Science in School Psychology. Additionally, we have a Master of Arts in Early Childhood Education and Development Learning and Instruction and Evaluation. However, that program is currently undergoing a redesign, and so it is not admitting at this time. That is DLI and E. So all of our programs in the department are regionally accredited by WASC, and two of our programs are nationally accredited. That is the MFT program and the school psychology program. The MFT program is accredited by COAMFT, the Council on Marriage and Family Therapy Education. And the school psychology program is accredited by NASP, which is the National Association of School Psychologists, apology. Our two MS programs in school counseling and school psychology are also accredited by the state of California. That is the body that issues Pupil Personnel Services credentials or PPS credentials. That is what allows someone to work in the state of California as a school counselor or as a school psychologist. So these are some common characteristics of all of our programs in the department. We have competitive entry programs, which means that not everyone who is qualified to enter the program will be accepted to the program. And that is because we receive many more applications than we have spaces for in the program. We do offer small class sizes across all of our programs. We meet accreditation standards, and we provide individualized attention to students with regard to their needs and their interests related to the programming or the course of study that they are pursuing within the department. Prerequisite courses, all of our degree programs do require some number of prerequisite courses. It's important to note that all prerequisites must be completed before you can begin any of our graduate programs. So our MS in counseling, MS in marriage and family therapy, and our MS in school psychology, those programs admit only once during the year, that is during the fall semester, which means that prerequisites would have to be completed by fall of 2022, those who are applying this application cycle for fall of 2022. For our MA in educational psychology, specifically early childhood education, prerequisites would need to be completed if you are applying for spring by the start of the spring term of 2022. If you are planning to apply for the fall 2022 admission, your prerequisites would need to be completed by, I want to say it's the second week of August of 2022. It is recommended that applicants have completed most, if not all, of the prerequisite courses at the time of application. That does not mean that you will not be considered if all prerequisites are not met. It just helps to make your application more competitive if most or all of the prerequisites are met. The grade earned must be a B- or better, and there are equivalent course options available. So for example, the MFT program requires one prerequisite course, which is EPC 451, which will be reviewed on an upcoming slide. On our pre-approved list, there are options for equivalencies that can be taken at CSUN. There are also options for equivalencies that can be taken at community colleges, as well as equivalencies that may have been taken at UC schools. Okay. So this is our application process. We have a two-step application process, meaning that we require 2 applications for applicants. So we require an application to Cal State Apply. That's the application to the university. We also require an application to the department, and that is through Apply Web. So the Cal State Apply application is open. It opened October 1st, and that is the link to reach Cal State Apply. You can also find this information on our application checklist, which can be found on our prospective student webpage. The EPC department application, you will find an Apply Here button on our prospective student webpage. And so that application will be available November 1st at the link on our webpage. For early childhood education, that application is already available. It is important to note that all applications are electronic. So no longer do you submit anything to the department in hard copy format. All of your information is captured electronically. Transcripts are required from all colleges and universities attended. So you will order official transcript copies to be sent directly to CSUN's admissions and records office. Please note that it can take 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes longer, to receive official transcripts. It's also important to understand that official transcripts are sent university to university. If that official transcript touches your hand in any way, meaning that you either go to the registrar's office at your institution and pick up a sealed copy of the official transcript, it is no longer considered official. So if it touches your hands in any way, you receive it, you mail it to CSUN, it is no longer considered official. So again, it must be sent directly from your institution to CSUN's Office of Admissions and Records. We also require unofficial transcript copies. Now, these are things like DPRs that you can print yourself and upload to the department application. Prerequisite substitution forms. So if you are requesting a prerequisite course substitution because you believe you've taken an equivalent course and that course may not be listed on our pre-approved list, you will submit a prerequisite course substitution form to me as one of the graduate coordinators in the department. I will review your request and let you know if that course can be considered equivalent or not. You will get a signed copy form if you've submitted a form. If you've submitted an email only, I have responded to your email and let you know if it is considered equivalent. Those documents you would upload to the department application through ApplyWeb. You can find the prerequisite course substitution form on our prospective student webpage by clicking on the red button at the bottom that says prerequisites. That will take you to the list of required prerequisites for each of the programs in the department. And toward the bottom of that page, you will find a link to the prerequisite course substitution form. Also required as part of the application is a statement of purpose. That's 2 to 3 pages long. So you must respond to the prompts for each program that are included as part of the application checklist. Do note that the MFT program has 4 prompts for applicants to respond to. The counseling program, school counseling and college counseling student services also has 4 prompts that must be responded to. The early childhood education and the school psychology program has 3 prompts that must be responded to. And it's important for applicants to address each of those required elements as part of their personal statement. We also require a resume of experiences. This should be about 1 to 2 pages and should include relevant information and any volunteer or unpaid experience that you've had. Lastly, we require recommendation letters, and I shouldn't say lastly, there are more requirements that will be reviewed on the next slide. We require recommendation letters for the school psychology program specifically. Applicants must have their recommenders upload letters of recommendation on official letterhead, okay? They cannot submit the form that is available on our website. You must submit a letter of recommendation. I should say your recommender must submit a letter of recommendation on letterhead, specifically for the school psychology program. The other programs in the department, it can be a letter or it can be that recommendation form that I just mentioned. And your recommender should speak to, if they're a professional recommendation, so if it's work related, they should speak to your work ethic, they should speak to who you are in that role, and it should be substantive in nature. They should be able to speak about you substantively. The same goes for an academic reference from one of your former or current professors. So that's just some additional information for you to consider. Copy of the GRE or TOEFL scores are required for the MFT program, the GRE specifically, I should say, the MFT program and the school psychology program. These 2 programs require the GRE regardless of undergraduate GPA or existing master's degree. So even if you have a 3.8 GPA as part of your undergraduate record, you must take the GRE if you are applying to the MFT and the school psychology program. For the counseling program and the MA in educational psychology at early childhood education program, those programs require the GRE if your cumulative undergraduate GPA is below a 3.0. Okay. So as a reminder, the university application through Cal State Apply opens annually on October 1st, and that application is open now. You must complete that application before you apply to the department. The department application will be available on our prospective student webpage through that red Apply Here button at the bottom of that page. And that application is also electronic and should be submitted after you have completed the Cal State Apply application. If you are currently a graduate student or post-baccalaureate student at CSUN, you do not need to reapply through Cal State Apply. you will submit a change of objective form, but you will need to apply to our department through Apply Web. Oh, what happened? I see there is a hand raised while we're getting back to the correct slide.
So I have a question.
Okay.
So you said that we don't need to do the GRE if we have a 3.0 and above.
That is specifically if you're applying to the counseling program or the Master of Arts in Educational Psychology Early Childhood Education program. If you are applying to MFT or school psychology, even with above a 3.0, you are required to take the GRE and submit scores.
Oh, because for CSUN, they said that you no longer need to take the GRE, so I was just confused on that.
That's a university requirement. Each department has their own set of requirements.
Oh, okay, I understand. So it's for the psychology department or master's program for the MFT, you need it.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Could you speak to why that's required?
I would like to get through this information, and I think that would be a question that would be best suited for the MFT breakout session when you can speak directly with the admissions coordinator. So these are our deadlines. The fall application submission window is November 1st, 2021 through January 14th, 2022. That is our deadline, January 14th. Please make sure you circle that. We will not extend our deadline for applications. And so it's really important that all applicants submit their applications by January 14th, 2022. The ECE, Early Childhood Education application deadline for spring 2022 is fast approaching. It is November 12th, 2021. So that's within, I want to say, another week and a half. The fall 2022 deadline will be April 15th. So the application will open November 1st and will close April 15th, 2022. That's for fall, for early childhood education specifically. So these are ways that applicants can strengthen their applications. As I mentioned previously, you want to complete as many of the prerequisites as possible prior to application. This does not mean you will not be considered for entry into the program. It just helps to make your application a bit more competitive. And you can see on the screen there what is considered ideal, acceptable, and less competitive as it relates to prerequisite courses. It's also important that applicants follow all application directions specifically. And so the department application, you will progress through that application. There are very clear prompts that are provided throughout that application. You want to ensure that you've uploaded all required elements of the application. You have responded to all of the required prompts for the personal statement. You've included your resume and things of that nature. And it's also important to consider gaining relevant and field-related experience. And that can be paid or unpaid experience. Both are acceptable. And I would like to reiterate something that was shared at our last information session on September 30th of this year. It was to think about relevant field experience broadly, right? So I think an example was given that maybe at some point in your history, you had been a camp counselor, right? You still had duties and responsibilities related to that experience that you might want to address as part of your personal statement or identifying some experiences that you've had. So that was one example that was shared, but you want to think broadly. If you have any hotline experience, so maybe you volunteered as part of a crisis line, and there are many different crisis lines that exist, that would be something relevant to include. If you're applying to one of the school-based programs, school counseling or school psychology, if you volunteered at a school, if you've been a teacher's aide or an instructional assistant, or you volunteered in the office, something along those lines, that would be relevant information to include. College counseling, if you have worked as as part of the USU or associated students at your institution. That of course would be relevant experience to include. So we want you to think broadly in terms of how you are conceptualizing field related experience. So these are some general requirements for the Masters of Science programs. There will be a core of counseling coursework or a core of therapy coursework. There are required fieldwork hours for all of our program. Many programs begin field experience during that first year. There's a minimum of 800 hours required for marriage and family therapy, for college counseling, student services, and also for school counseling. The 800 hours specifically for school counseling are required by the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. For school psychology, the required field experience hours are 1,650, and that is also required by the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. We also, as part of our programs, students have to complete a culminating activity requirement. And so that is a comprehensive exam, a thesis, a project, an e-portfolio, which is not listed here, but those are all options that are reviewed with students once they enter the programs. But we'd like to provide an overview of the framework of our programs. So the program format for counseling and school psychology specifically, they are cohorted programs with courses ranging from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. or 7 p.m. And courses are offered annually. We do not have repeating courses. They're not available each semester. And so that's important for folks to know. Counseling, which includes, again, school counseling, college counseling, student services, courses are held Mondays and Wednesdays. School psychology courses are typically held Tuesdays and Thursdays. Marriage and family therapy, this includes everyone who's accepted into the program. You may have classes on Mondays, Tuesdays, or Wednesdays, and times vary and can be in the morning, can be in the afternoon, or they can be in the evening. Fieldwork hours are also variable in terms of scheduling, and it really depends on the placement site's needs specifically. So these are our Master of Science programs, and we're going to start with counseling. So this is the MS in counseling with a specialization in school counseling or college counseling student services. So these are the common features of the program. It is a minimum of 73 units. 49 units of that is the counseling core coursework. There are no elective options within the program that are offered. It is a 3-year program. It's a very full-time program. It may include some summers. It's not required for students to attend summers, but some students do attend courses during summer that are offered to lighten their load for later semesters. We do have afternoon and evening courses for both specializations within the program. So year one, students will, so year 1, 2, and 3, students attend classes full-time Mondays and Wednesdays. Specifically in year 1, students are engaged in practicum experience, and that's about 5 to 10 hours a week. Year 2, all students are engaged in their specialization fieldwork, and that is 15 to 20 hours a week. And then year 3, all students are engaged in clinical counseling fieldwork, and that is 15 to 25 hours per week. So what we look for in applicants, a cumulative GPA above a 3.0, 2.75 is the minimum eligibility to apply. Most or all prerequisites completed at time of application. Experience prior to the application, again, I talked about experience previously. We also value experience with diverse populations. This includes individuals who've been historically marginalized, differently able students, individuals who've been traditionally underserved. So we value that experience as well, again, in addition to what I reviewed previously. Experience in the field of study, we like to see that, but if it's not available, that doesn't mean that someone will be automatically screened out. These are the current prerequisites for the program. There are 5 prerequisites. However, we are planning to reduce the number of courses that are required as prerequisites. However, this has not yet been confirmed. So currently we require EPC 430, which is development and learning. In early childhood education, we require EPC 451, which is fundamentals of counseling and guidance, EPC 600 or statistics, Psych 310, which is abnormal psychology, and SPED 400, which is Introduction to Special Education. All of these prerequisites have equivalencies that can be found on our pre-approved equivalency list. We do offer a waiver, if you will. So all prerequisites are required to have been completed within the last 7 years. So for those applying for fall of 2022, prerequisites would have to have been completed no earlier than fall of 2015. However, statistics, since that content doesn't really change from year to year, if you have an older statistics course, we can consider that as meeting the requirement. So even if it's beyond the 7 years, so I wanted to offer that. Our counseling program themes include social justice, advocacy, leadership, multicultural awareness, and counseling theory to practice. We really like to focus on embedding all of those areas within the program and also ensuring that students are seeing a connection between theory and practice. So it's not just the theoretical components that we're learning in the classroom. We also want students in the program to translate that into their practice at their field sites. Additionally, or specifically for school counseling applicants, related to experience in P12 public school settings, again, that's volunteer or paid experience that is acceptable. And students should have an interest in developing traditional counseling skills because we are training counselors. At the heart of the training is counseling. And so the CBEST is no longer required as a prerequisite to enter the program. Students who are admitted into the program are required to take and pass the CBEST, which is to meet basic skills during the first year of the program. However, there are now many ways to meet basic skills, too many to list on a slide. This information is reviewed to those who have been accepted into the program. So the counseling core of coursework, as I mentioned previously, and in addition to that, you receive history and current trends related to school counseling. So what's happening in the field? How do you collaborate with multidisciplinary teams? There's a focus on developing leadership skills specific to your work on a P12 campus, and then also development of intervention and program evaluation skills that are needed to address these specific areas related to the work or the role of the school counselor, personal social or social emotional, as well as economic and institutional challenges that our students often face, and it is our students of diverse backgrounds. So that's why we put focus on culturally responsive pedagogical processes. And I've already covered that. The program requires 800 hours of field work. At a minimum, most students do more than 800 hours of field work. So the school counseling characteristics, we operate from the transformed school counselor model. So our counselors are trained to act proactively instead of reactively. That does not mean that folks will never have to react, but we want folks to focus on the preventative side or the prevention side, how to collaborate, how to build school, family, community partnerships and work not just individually, but also systemically. So our students who graduate with an MS in counseling with specialization in school counseling and a PPS credential. The credential is embedded within the program. Also, upon degree completion, folks who wish to do so can pursue licensure in the state of California as a professional clinical counselor. And so that designation is an LPCC. There is additional post-degree field experience that is required. There are also exams that must be completed, but that is an option that is available to the graduates of this program. That is my contact information. Because we are still in this pandemic, And I'm hoping, as I think we all are, that we will be through this very soon. I have not included my phone number because I'm not in my office. I'm still working remotely. So that is the best way to reach me. That is the best way to contact me, through email. And now we're going to review the College Counseling Student Services Program, which is the other specialization that's part of the counseling program. Again, with this, in general to the counseling program, folks must have an interest in developing traditional counseling skills. Your experience with CCSS will be in the student affairs field, so working in higher education, whether that's at a four-year institution or a community college. And similar to what was shared previously related to paid or volunteer experience, both are acceptable, and we encourage you to think broadly as you are completing your application. So for CCSS, there is this core of counseling coursework that I reviewed, as well as student development theory and application that is a focus within the program. Again, leadership skills, working with administration and management, history and current issues as they specifically relate to higher education, and program evaluation skills. This specialization also requires 800 hours of fieldwork as a minimum. And just like with our school counseling specialization, students often complete well over the 800 hours of required fieldwork, which is a positive because these are things that they include on their resume when they are seeking employment post-graduation. So the emphasis for the CCSS program, of course, is college setting. We are preparing folks to have careers in student affairs, specifically roles at the college or university campus level. We are training folks to apply those counseling skills and their student development theory principles and models across a variety of professional roles. Student affairs is a very broad area. It includes every role basically on a four-year institution campus or community college campus. And so students do seek out very broad experiences in their work and their engagement. And so lastly, our program is also focused on developing professionals, their multicultural counseling competency. That is an emphasis of the program because we want to ensure that they can engage holistically with the diverse student populations that exist on our campuses now. And so these are just some of the roles and settings, as I mentioned, is very broad, that our students engage as part of their GA-ships, but also when they graduate, where they seek employment. Things like academic advisement, university student union, student discipline. They may work in student government, they may work in res life or in a counseling center. So it's just a very expansive set of opportunities that are available to graduates. And then our students graduate with that MS in counseling degree with a specialization in college counseling and student services. They are also able to pursue licensure as a LPCC in the state of California post-degree if they so choose to. It also requires, again, additional field experience post-degree, as well as examinations that are required by the Board of Behavioral Sciences. And that is my contact information again. And next we have school psychology. However, I'm not sure if we have Dr. Ristori on the meeting, in the meeting at this time.
Hi, Dr. Minton.
Yes, Dr. Ristori.
If you could have one of the other programs go now, and then I can find a place to park and talk about school psychology.
Absolutely. Let's go to MFT.
Thank you.
And I will turn it over to Dr. Mark Stevens. You're muted.
Well, good. You didn't hear my terrible joke that I said I'd take Al's if you wanted me to. I know the program. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Stevens, and I'm one of 5 core faculty in the Marriage and Family Therapy program. I will tell you ahead of time, I am very biased towards this program. I know a lot of programs, and I'm so pleased to be part of the core faculty here. So let me tell you a little bit about our program, and then when we get into our breakout rooms, we'll be able to, I'll answer your questions. So if you can hold your questions until our breakout rooms, that would be terrific. All right, next slide. Okay, so we do not have a part-time program. They're only for full-time programs. We have a 2.75 minimum to be eligible. We do look at, because we realize that sometimes people get better at college, and you may have started out, you know, with below a 2.0, but you hit it really strong the last couple years. So we do take a look at the trajectory of your GPA. We're looking for experience in the field of study prior to application. It's desirable. And as Dr. Minton said, take a look at, think about all the ways that you have been part of human development, and whether that's as a camp counselor, or even there's been perhaps some nanny positions or babysitter positions or other kinds of positions that give you a type of field work experience. We have 2 clinics that are part of our the college and part of our department and our program. And one is a world-renowned program called Strength United. And when I say world-renowned, it really is. We're doing incredible things around counseling domestic violence, and reaching out to low-income families. We also have on campus the Mitchell Family Counseling Clinic. Our students will go to one of those 2 clinics, but there's a lot of other clinics in the area that you can choose from as well. We are COAMFTE accredited, which means that you can graduate from here and be licensed in any other state. That's a really gigantic advantage. And it does meet the California licensing requirements for both LMFT and professional counselor. All right. So the program is anywhere, minimally it's 2.5, 2.5 years to 3 years. I would say that around 80% of our students finish in 2.5 years. The ones that take a little bit longer, typically they have not gotten all of their field placement hours. Sometimes they take a little bit longer getting ready for the comp exam or completing their project or their thesis. Summers are required. There is a minimum of 800 hours of field work required. So the students graduate with an MS in Marriage and Family Therapy. And as I said before, it allows you to register as an associate after you graduate and to complete all your master's clinical hours. And then you get to sit for the written exams. And then you hopefully will pay some dues after you pass the exams. All right. Okay. So there is, this has been a big change in the past. We've had a lot of different requirements, prerequisites. There is only one that we're requiring. Go ahead and look into it if you haven't already to get that done. This is not a clinical psychology class. It is an introduction to counseling. Okay. So this is a little bit what the years look like. Your first year, you'll attend full-time on Mondays, Tuesdays, or Wednesdays. Your field work may start your second semester. You end up applying and you start with the training, and you actually may start seeing clients. All of the other field work that we offer would not start until you can apply your second semester in the program, but they would not start until the summer or the fall. In your first year, people work, still are able to keep their job depending on when it is. They work anywhere between, can work 20 hours a week plus, depending on what it is. But by the time you get into your second year, you'll be on your field work and you'll be doing 15 to 25 hours. You'll be doing all your coursework and you'll be starting to either do your project or your comp exams. So you'll be very, very full and very busy. The third year that you'll be continuing with your field work hours and continuing studying for your comp exams or finishing up your projects. In our hours, we have what's called relational hours because we are a marriage and family therapy degree program. You have to get a certain amount of hours that involve relationships, and those involve, that could be couples or it could be families. Depending on your site, some of the sites, it just takes a little bit longer, and that's why some students don't graduate. They finish everything, but they're continuing to get their relationship hours. Okay. So what we are looking for in terms of, or what you can hope for in terms of student outcomes is that we want you to develop a competency in a systemic and contemporary therapy theories, develop a foundation in the field's evidence base, and provide individual, couples, family, and group therapy to a diverse clients in a variety of community mental health settings. I will say that if you were to ask me what one of our strengths are, I'll mention a couple of them. One is that the fieldwork experiences that you will get, you'll have an opportunity to see a really diverse set of clients. For some of you that are interested in doing counseling bilingually, we've had our students do it in Spanish and Armenian, I think, are the two languages that we've been able to have our students participate in. And I will also say that in terms of diversity, the students in the program, we have a very diverse student program, and we also have a diverse faculty, which I'll share with you in a little bit. Okay, what else am I supposed to talk about? All right. Like Dr. Minton, don't call me on my phone number at the college because we're not there. Go ahead and email me. If you have questions about the essence of our program, to go ahead and email me if you have some questions, conceptual questions, but questions that you might have about your application. You're going to be sending those questions to our EPC office, to Teresa and Madison. And then if you have questions about your prerequisites and anything that has to do with maybe GPA or GREs, that is going to be going towards Dr. Minton. Oh, we've got more stuff. Okay. I think I got, oh no, this is about licensure. This is somebody else that's going to talk about that.
So this slide just details the licensure options that result for those who complete our programs. So for marriage and family therapy, the degree must specifically be in MFT. It cannot be a counseling-based degree, so like a degree in college counseling, student services, or school counseling, or school psychology to pursue licensure as a marriage and family therapist in the state of California. The degree must specifically be in marriage and family therapy. Our program as Dr. Stevens mentioned, prepares for LMFT and LPCC. LPCC degree can be in an alternate counseling field. So you can have a degree in school counseling or a degree in college counseling student services. And our programs are recognized with the BBS as providing preparation for applicants to pursue licensure as LPCCs. Lastly is the licensed educational psychologist, or LEP. So your degree must be in an approved field, such as school psychology, and there is a requirement for a minimum of 3 years in the field to be eligible to pursue that licensure. So as a reminder, all of these licenses in the state of California require significant postmaster's degree supervised field experience and examinations that folks have to sit for to be able to be licensed in the state of California. And I think we have Dr. Ristori, who's now available to review school psychology.
Yes. Okay, so I'm Albert Ristori, and I'm one of the professors in the school psych program. And right now I also serve as the department chair for EPC. I gotta make this bigger here, okay. So, and just so you know, to be honest with you, I haven't seen these slides in a couple of years, so I'm going to be kind of going through them, kind of revisiting them myself. So, you know, the first bullet here says a conviction to advocate for children with exceptional needs, and that's, you know, if you don't have that, if you don't have this need to really work with children who have special needs and challenges, school psych's probably not the right field for you. This is something that you really have to have a passion for. I did, and my colleagues do, and so it's something that you want to kind of think about, you know, because it's not for everybody. In terms of prior experience, we'd like to have students who have worked in the P-12 setting, you know, in a public school setting or in a special education setting. And that could be, you know, as a teacher's assistant, you know, or as a teacher. Now, the thing that I see a lot of people do that do not have experience in the public school setting is they work for MPAs that specialize in applied behavior analysis. And so that's something that we find to be a pretty good training in terms of getting a sense for what it's like to work with children with special needs. And most MPAs tend to service, the majority of the children they service are children with autism. So it gives you a good feel for working with a child who has special needs. And so having that experience is a big difference maker. The thing that that when people ask me, you know, what can I do to make my application strong? It's usually that piece. If you have some experience, you know, it will overshadow, overcome another weakness in your application by having that experience, and especially if you get a letter of recommendation from that agency. So the students are admitted on a full-time basis only. It's not a part-time program. We do require full-time enrollment as well as attendance during the summers. You have to attend school during the summer, so you're pretty much in school year-round. In terms of some of the requirements for application, we do require the GRE for all school psychology applicants. So this is regardless of what your GPA is or if you have a master's degree, all applicants must complete the GRE. And ideally, you have your GRE scores in your application packet because we use that as part of the evaluation in terms of deciding, you know, who we're going to invite to the interviews and so forth. You should submit 3 letters. 2's fine, but 3 is ideal. And so you want to have this, not just the form that we have, but you want to have the recommenders write it on the stationery from whatever agency they're with. It's a good idea to have at least 1 letter from a former professor who can say, hey, you know, this person is really dedicated to school and does a good job, and they always attend and they ask good questions and that sort of thing. And if you've been employed by a school district or an MPA, it's good to have a letter of recommendation from somebody from that company as well. Next slide, please. So these are the 4 prerequisites that are required for the school psychology program. And these are 314, which is psychological foundations, 451, an introduction to counseling, 430, developmental psychology, and 600, statistics. If you're coming from a field like a lot of you probably are, like psychology, by the time you graduate, you will have the statistics prerequisite fulfilled. So the only condition to it is you have to get a B or better in all these 4 prerequisites. You have to get a B or better. A lot of you who are coming from a psych background may also have a background in developmental psychology or even an introduction to counseling. The psychological foundations class is something that you probably don't have as a as a psychology major. So there's different places where you can get that, including the CSUN, but there's other places, even in junior colleges where you could take the psych foundations class. So the program itself is, like I said, 3 years full-time, 72 units are required to graduate. It's a total of 1,650 fieldwork and internship hours. So the way that's broken up is that 450 hours are in the second year, and that is the fieldwork experience. And so usually you're at a school 2 days a week. Initially, you're shadowing a school psychologist, and then you become more involved in the process of what they do, and even start some of the assessments and so forth that they're doing. And then the third year, you're doing a 1,200-hour internship, which is basically a full-time job working for a school district as an intern. More and more of those internships are paid now than they were, say, 10 or 15 years ago. A lot of the districts are paying, but they're not paying big money. They're paying, for the most part, a smaller stipend. But at least it's something that you're getting paid to do it, where before it was essentially you working 1,200 hours for free. When students graduate, well, this is going to change in about a year. I'm sorry, I take it back. When students graduate, you graduate, you have your MS in school psych, and then you get a PPS credential in school psychology from the state of California. So that allows you to go work in the public schools. But what's different now than it was a few years ago is that you must have the master's to get the PPS credential. So you can't do one without the other. Thank you. Let's see, next slide, please. Okay, so in the first year, students attend class. It says 2 to 3 nights, but it's usually 2 nights a week. So it's usually 2 classes on Tuesday and 2 classes on Thursday. Some of the classes are counseling classes, such as you just kind of learning about counseling and so forth, and then counseling foundations or introduction to counseling. The second year, which I would say is probably the busiest year in terms of classes, you are coming to class 3 nights a week. So you have the usual Tuesday and Thursdays, but then you'll have a third night where you're coming to do an assessment lab. So this is the year where it's really heavily school psychology based or focused. You're learning some of the harder or the more difficult parts of school psychology, typically associated with assessment, learning the assessment instruments, learning how to interpret them, learning how to administer them, learning how to talk to families and our IEP teams about the results from those tests. So it's pretty involved. And so let me just back up for a second too. In terms of the first year, it is a little bit of a lighter load. And so if you wanted to work in the first year, I think working 20 hours is probably safe, maybe 20, 25 hours. But the second year, because you are, 2 days a week, you're going to be out in the field, and then it's just a much heavier class load in terms of the amount of work and the volume of work that you're going to be doing. So I would strongly urge you to not work in the second or third year. In the third year, like I said, you're at a school district basically 4 or 5 days a week, full time. So unless you're maybe working on the weekend, which is probably going to be taken up with doing stuff to do for the program, such as writing reports or even working on your thesis or project or comps, your days are going to be pretty full. So in the third year, again, I don't think you're going to be able to work. I mean, maybe, but it's highly unlikely. I can't think of anybody who's actually done that. The 7 strands of the school psychology program are first assessment, which is, assessment and assessment related activities do constitute about 70% of the stuff that we do as school psychologists. You're going to learn about learning and instruction in terms of having ideas for recommendations and so forth for children who have learning disabilities. Counseling is another important part of what school psychologists do, as well as consultation, which is consulting with parents and teachers and other members of the IEP team. Prevention and intervention, research, professional development, and law and ethics. So those are the 7 strands of school psychology. There's my contact information. That number doesn't work, so don't use that 4572 number. But that email is good. So if you have questions, feel free to email me at alberto.ristori@csun.edu. And then my colleague is Dr. Leja, and there's her email address. And I believe that number is good for her. But since we're during the pandemic, most of us are only on campus at the most 1 day a week. So email really is the best way to get a hold of us, and then we can respond to you that way. I also urge you all that if you before you contact anybody at the school, we have a pretty comprehensive website, and we're working on it even more to kind of include all the information you really need. Majority of the questions that I get asked, and I'm talking 90% of the questions I get asked, are already answered on the website. If you just take the time to read the website and go through it carefully, and you'll really have a pretty good idea of what the program offers and what's needed to get in and so forth. So as far as your questions, I'll stick around for the breakout rooms, and you can ask me any other questions at that time. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Dr. Ristori. All right, now let's go to our Master of Arts program, which is early childhood education and working with tiny humans. Dr. Priscilla Aguayo.
Carrie, you were going to do this, weren't you?
Is you well, but do it together, Joni.
I know you, but you start.
Okay. Hi.
Actually, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Rustingfish. Would you mind introducing yourself? Because you weren't on in the beginning when we introduced, and I didn't know you had joined.
Who's that to, Dr. Minton?
Yes, that's to you.
Oh, hi.
Dr. Rustingfish.
Everyone, I'm Carrie Rothstein-Fish, professor in educational psychology, part of this department, and my specialty is early childhood education, which is defined as children prenatal to age 8. And I'm very glad to be here. Next slide. So the early childhood program is a 30-unit master's class, and it is designed for people who are working, ideally with young children. So I'm hoping that Dr. Stevens is picking up a young child that might be napping on the floor. Is it a baby, Dr. Stevens? No, it's not a baby. Darn. Okay, back to focus here. We love our students, and we love babies and children. We do have part-time students, and we do have full-time students in the program. The community service is required through fieldwork and other options in the course, and students graduate with a master's in educational psychology, the emphasis in early childhood education. We have 2 prerequisites. One is educational ed psych and counseling 430, which is actually the title of that class is a learning and development in early childhood education. And I know Alexa is one of the participants that's on here, and I know she's a graduate of that class. And then statistics, and that can be taken either at a community college or at CSUN. We are aligned with the our national association, which is the National Association for the Education of Young Children, in these 6 major areas. First and foremost, on evidence-based child development and learning contexts. So there is a strong research component. And then the very special relationship between families and teachers and the community. We emphasize observation and documentation and screening and assessment. We are in every single class devoted to looking at culturally and linguistically appropriate and inclusive education in absolutely every way possible. So we do have our students do projects and work that demonstrate their knowledge, application, and integration of academic content in early childhood curriculum and in other applications as well, such as making sure that they're doing things correctly in screening and assessment. And then Dr. Basilo Aguayo is our leader of leadership, having completed her doctorate specifically in that area, serves on a number of very high profile boards and boards of directors. So we're super proud of her. And so we talk a lot about leadership and professionalism. The program really emphasizes leadership and advocacy. No matter what someone's interests are, whether it's they love babies or they want to work with linguistic children with special needs, or just a wide range of interests, everyone comes out as a leader and an advocate for children and families, particularly those that have been historically underserved. And we do that by making sure that you are equipped as a knowledgeable professional. So communication is critical, formal and informal collaboration, advocacy, and ethics, super important. We talk a lot about ethics, and these things are embedded in absolutely every class. Doesn't matter if the class is on curriculum or language and cognition, all of these concepts are embedded in that. Students gain knowledge and, of course, child development, and also not just child development, but also child learning strategies. So what makes a good child learning with interest, and what makes someone have an initiative to learn and grow? So we're interested in education as well as development. And also what happens with adult-child interaction as well as adult-adult interaction. Here we have things like parent-teacher conferences, and then all the other things that are critical. For example, children and technology has never been more important. As children spend a year exclusively learning online, we have done presentations on that and continue to look at all of the features that are associated with contemporary topics and research in early childhood education. What do you do with a master's in early childhood education? Well, turns out the answer is many, many things. Roughly half of our students become community college instructors. They also go on for PhDs, and we have several of them now doing training at many local and also across the country programs. We're very proud of them. Some of our graduates will go on into program administration and leadership. They will do program evaluation. They'll work for the counties in different capacities. They will, and most likely in the future, given the trends that we're seeing, perhaps work in public education in pre-K, which is pre-kindergarten and so forth, child advocacy. There is a tremendous amount of interest because of the role of early childhood in this field right now, from the national level to the state and the local level. So we are in an enormous state of opportunity in early childhood education. Probably one reason is because we have an enormous quantity and quality of research about the effects of things like toxic stress on young children and their actual brain architecture as a result of stress. It's clear to say we've all had a lot of stress lately, and that does not exclude children who've been extremely stressed. So we are at more the preventative level. I know a lot of people who are interested in marriage and family therapy and things like that are looking a little bit further down the road, but we want to give families absolutely every opportunity to thrive and be healthy and to support children, whether they're teachers or parents or grandparents or cousins and aunts, everybody, to support children for the absolute best outcome. And Here's a picture of one of our former graduates who has PhD from Irvine, Alejandra Moses, with her husband and one of her children. And so we want to remind you that we are a program that does accept students mid-year. So if you are really, really well qualified and you want to start your master's in the spring, you can still get your application in by the middle of next month. That's a fixed deadline though. There's no massaging that date. And then the application for fall is April 15th. I know it's taxing, isn't it? But it's also an opportunity to start your life in graduate school in early childhood education. There's our contact number. And as all of our colleagues have mentioned, don't call, email.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for your interest in our programs. What we will do now is open up, I should say, our breakout rooms for our different programs in the department. The links will be included in the chat for you to access. Please know that if the link does not work, it's not hyperlinked, you may need to type it into your browser, or if you have the ability to copy and paste out of Zoom, you can do it that way. But hopefully they will be hyperlinked so you can just click and go to the next session. As a reminder, these slides will be, and this entire recorded session will be posted on our department website, the prospective student webpage, for you to access and review at any time. So I'd like to thank all of the faculty for joining to share about their programs. And I would also like to thank all of our attendees for joining us today to learn about our programs in EdPsych and counseling.
Thank you, Dr. Minton.
Thank you. Breakout rooms will be posted momentarily. Oh, they're already in there.
Joni, do we have a different link? What's the deal?